First up, the SCO summit comes to a close. The larger question is, has India set the right tone? Have they taken the right stand when we say that the 4-point agenda for the summit in Delhi on the 3rd and 4th of July will be between de-radicalization to digitization? So the entire gamut of what actually matters beyond the conflict areas, beyond the expansionism, beyond the narratives, have they actually got the whole story right, the objective of that which the SCO was actually founded nearly 3 decades ago. This also includes a reform of the SCO, more member nations now coming in, not just as observers, but also participants, active participants. The scope of the SCO, we had spoken about it last evening, is only growing broader and wider. But all this, even as China-Pakistan combined, continues to push its own narrative into this entire SCO, and somewhere it wants to corner India, and that's very evident. Some statements made by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, also very, very strong and explosive. We will talk about that, but let's go straight across to our experts who would have more to say from the Russian point of view. Ben Aris is with us, Einar Tangen, to bring us China's perspective. But first to Ambassador Kamal Sibal, who will be looking in and weighing in both on the India aspect and what Pakistan tried to do. Their, attempt at gamesmanship. Every time they come on a multilateral forum, they try and smoke the peace pipe, but then they come back and try and wield the sword or have a dagger in the other hand. It's typical of the Pakistanis to do that, but the story is India. So let me ask you, Kanwal Sibal, has India set the tone right? Has India got its agenda right when the foreign minister in his opening remarks said, these are the 4 main aspects on which we would like your the nations to try and opine and also agree to, that could be taken up at the summit level talks in July. Starting with de-radicalization, and of course then the point number 4 is digital transformation. In between came sustainability and mutual cooperation, and of course talking about millets and so many other aspects. But your thoughts, sir?
Well, India should be a responsible partner and look for ways in which the SCO member countries, as well as dialogue partners and others, can forge positive areas of cooperation. It should not become a platform for anti-Western propaganda or laying on the table all the grievances and grouses that countries may legitimately have with regard to the manner in which the West is pursuing its agenda. But then the value of this organization, the purpose and the future of the organization will get compromised, because then it will appear as if this organization, instead of sticking to its agenda of peaceful resolution of disputes, non-interference in the internal affairs of countries, respect for sovereignty, in fact dealing with each other in a manner in which they avoid dealing the way the West deals with others, trying to dominate, push its agenda, impose values and things like that. Now, if this becomes overtly an anti-Western organization, then it will divide the international community even more and raise more polemics. This is not in the interest of everyone. The fact that this organization exists, is expanding, in itself means that that multipolarity is being built up. And more countries are feeling attracted to join an organization in which the West is absent. This is very important. So I think India has set the right tone in trying to focus on positive issues, economic issues, cooperative issues, and not divisive issues. And this formulation of de-radicalization to digitalization, I think, is very beautifully worded. Our concerns on terrorism remain. And we've also talked about focusing on startups, traditional medicine, youth empowerment, Buddhist heritage, science and technology, and things like that. There's a lot of potential in this agenda. And if you work on that, then you can forge ties of cooperation between the member countries, which itself will then advance their shared interests, rather than getting locked into the kind of disputes and politics that the Pakistani foreign minister was trying to do. Now, this business about Pakistan being a peaceful country, nobody buys it. I mean, they're speaking to themselves, to their own audience. Who's buying it? Of course, China is a friend, and Russia is becoming a little soft on them. Therefore, they may feel that they can get away with it, but it's not. The real concern shared concern on terrorism emanating from Afghanistan with links with Pakistan is very much on the forefront, even of the Chinese, not to mention the Russians, of course, as well as Central Asian states. And Pakistan's role is well known, and they just can't cover it up.
Right. Right. Ben Arus, let's just quickly bring in the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. What's going to remain with the people? What he said inside the meeting or what he said during the Q&A?
I think the significance is Lavrov when it's all it's a key element of what Putin's trying to do now that he's been sanctioned and cut off from traditional markets. And he's looking to expand and replace those lost markets in the West with those in the emerging world. And at the same time, he's been banging on about his ideas of multipolar world as opposed to the unipolar world, which is led by the states. And so his mere presence there is a sign that Russia is investing heavily in building up these relationships. I mean, you have to appreciate the enormity of the change that Russia has been through in so much as this entire energy infrastructure, what earns it the bulk of its money, was pointed at the West. 70% of Russia's oil and gas was delivered to Europe. And that's been cut off, that's gone. And so Russia's trying to rebuild itself. And it's been pariahed by the West. I mean, everything's, only a few things have been sanctioned, but, West has stopped trading with Russia almost entirely. And so it's both political and economic. It needs new markets, and the emerging world is growing very fast and providing those markets. But at the same time, it needs political allies. And as our colleague mentioned, actually that's being warmly welcomed in the emerging world because there's a deeper issue here. I think the emerging markets are fed up with being treated as second-class citizens in the geopolitical infrastructure. The UN is based in New York, the WHO is based in Geneva, and it's all dominated by Westerners and Europeans, even though they're nominally multilateral. I think the 70% of the world's population is in the emerging markets, but it has 15% of the votes in these organizations. And consequently, Russia and China together, they're the two emerging markets that sit at top table. Specifically, you can look at the UN Security Council, that there's 3 European countries, the US plus China, no one from Africa, no one from Latin America. And so emerging world is looking to China and Russia, who do sit at top table, partly because of their nuclear capabilities. And they want to have their say. They buy into this multinational that it shouldn't be the Americans dictating to everyone. It should be around a big table and done as a community on the basis of consensus. So we're in a very interesting time now where geopolitical relationships are being massively reorganized, or there's an attempt to reorganize. And then the SCO the meeting is an important part of that because, again, my colleague mentioned, there's no Western presence involved at all. It's the same with the BRICS summit that's due to be held in South Africa in August. The Americans applied to attend and they were refused. The emerging world is like, no, we're building our own institutions now. And so together, we actually will have a lot more clout. And that's partly a reaction to the extremity of the sanctions that have been put on Russia because everybody's vulnerable to those. But it's also part of the ongoing development. India's come on by leaps and bounds. And it's not an emerging market anymore. It's emerged. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do ahead of it. Nevertheless, we're in a new era now where these countries, all of them, China, India, Belarus, Iran, they all want their say. They have their own interests. But they don't have the weaponry nor the money that the West does. And it's using that leverage that it's had for 500 years since the Industrial Revolution. But I'm afraid I think that period has passed. And so we're in the middle now of this process of remaking things. But then the members of SCO, of BRICS, of Asian countries, there's lots of issues still. They're not obvious partners. The India-Pakistan tensions is going to be a problem. The India-China tensions is going to be a problem. And all this stuff needs to be worked out. But I think it's very significant that the Pakistani foreign minister came. And it shows that there's a common interest of getting past these problems. The cooperation needs to be done. And that's a very healthy thing. But again, diplomatically, there's as much work to do left as there is economically.
Absolutely, but one of the comments that stood out for me was for Sergei Lavrov during the Q&A, call out America as the open sponsor or backing ISIS and also the East Turkestan Islamic movement. Does that indicate, Einar Tangen, that China is able to get Russia to echo its voice? China has also got Pakistan to say what it wants it to say. So is China now increasingly trying to exert its influence across the SCO member nations?
China and Russia are in transition. I mean, the war of words between the Kremlin and the White House has been ongoing, and they take I mean, relations are dead. Diplomatic relations are in effect being broken off because they are in effect at war with each other, and so they're taking every opportunity to take potshots. And you also have to appreciate that Lavrov's comments are also aimed at the domestic market, because Putin is in an uncomfortable position there, in so much as he's wrecked the prosperity of Russia. And given the sanctions won't come off in my lifetime, I believe, that there's going to be an attrition to the standard of living, and Russians have got used to living a European standard of life, and that's going to go, which puts Putin in a difficult domestic position in so much as he's facing possible dissent, protests, anti-war movement, which hasn't really shown itself, but it's there, it's lingering, it's under the surface.
Ben, let me get Einar Tangen in. Mr. Tangen, Einar Tangen, can you hear me? How would you want to see what's happening, how it played out, the SCO foreign ministers meet? Has China been able to weigh in and get nations to say what it wants it to say?
No, China would like to listen to what other countries have to say. I mean, when history looks back on this summit, they'll judge it based on this was a regional grouping of global South countries and some East Asian countries, Central Asian countries, who were coming together to try to figure out how they can work together. I would agree with my first colleague who said that it shouldn't be reduced to a bunch of petty side issues, that their eyes should be on how these countries can cooperate. The multilateral world is a fact. The question is, how is it shaped? And it is at conferences like this that countries have to put aside all of their petty differences, all of their bilateral differences, and try to figure out how the world is going to work, both in terms of security, respect, and also development.
There are some videos that have come to the fore now on a day when Bilawal Bhutto made that statement and tried to underline the aspect of self-determination without mentioning Kashmir, protection of minorities, etc., etc. There are 4 or 5 videos that have come to the fore. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us pictures of protests at the Lahore Press Club. Huge protests that have been done by the minority community because they believe, and what they're alleging is brazen misuse of the blasphemy law, and they're also wanting forced conversion to be stopped. And these leaders are saying that the temples, churches are being attacked. There are also a video of an Ahmadi mosque that's been broken down. This is coming in from Mirpur Khas in Sindh. There are protests in the Astor district in Gilgit-Baltistan, where the killing of a young man has now really rattled everybody up, and because two boys went missing, one is still missing, and the other's dead body turned up, and there are huge protests on the ground. And this body was found on the 2nd of May in Jotial in Gilgit. Then there are also protests which are happening as a person from Pak-occupied Kashmir. He hails from Muzaffarabad, was beaten up brutally, and this happened in Islamabad. And this was because he's a native of POK. He was beaten up in Islamabad on the 23rd of April because he commented on the economic hardship that Pakistan is going through, saying that even the greatest of the saints cannot pull Pakistan out of it. And then they started beating him up, saying you showed disrespect to one of our saints. So this is the treatment that minorities, people are being treated. And we're not even counting the instances with the Baloch, Kawal Sibalji. So when Bilawal Bhutto makes such statements on an official platform, aren't they opening up to further ridicule? Can they preach what they never practice?
Look, they have said far worse things on the UN General Assembly platform, and Bilawal Bhutto himself, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, far more vicious. This is nothing. And with regard to self-determination, minorities, and this and that, they have said it before, even in the SCO meetings. So this is nothing new. And if they didn't say it, he would be pilloried back home, that you went there and you missed the opportunity to make your points. Now, from our side, when we talk about cross-border terrorism and accountability for those who harbor terrorists and this and that, the message is clear. Who are we targeting? We are targeting Pakistan. So I therefore don't see it as any great problem that Bhutto said what he said.
Let us see how it all pans out and what's there in the fine print eventually at the summit level talks, because there's a lot of time between May and today, that is the 5th of May, and of course the 3rd and 4th of July. Kamal Sibalji, always a pleasure talking with you, Ben Aris and Aina Tangen. Thank you very, very much. Quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the clock ticking on me because we've got a flight to catch. But before that, this is something which is important. We brought you the entire cast and crew of the Kerala story. The movie releases today across all screens. There are allegations being made that certain states are actually blocking the broadcast by exerting pressure on Cineplex holders, although the Cineplex holders are not, owners are not coming out and being forthright about it, but they're blocking them and exerting pressure on them to not schedule screenings of this movie. We'll play out the conversation with the cast very, very soon. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi wading into this entire debate, the Kerala story debate, in poll-bound Karnataka during the campaigning. Listen to what he said.
कोर्ट तक ने आतंक के इस स्वरूप पर चिंता जताई है। ऐसी ही आतंकी साजिश पर बनी फिल्म केरला स्टोरी, ये केरला स्टोरी की इन दिनों काफी चर्चा है। कहते हैं केरला स्टोरी सिर्फ एक राज्य में हुई आतंकवादियों की छद्म नीतियों की साजिशों पर आधारित है।
Well, George Kurian joins us. We should have Tom Vadakan of the BJP also joining us. George Kurian, the Prime Minister, now taking a jibe. So if it was the left in Kerala, then he's also taken on the Congress saying, why do you want to block the story that reflects reality in society? Why do you want to back radicals? That's the question.
Well, Anand, as we are aware, there are a lot of internal conflicts within states, and you are aware of it. Be it the northeastern part of the nation, be it the moist area, be it the Maharashtra border. So the Prime Minister and the ruling dispensation need to look into themselves. They have to look into the mirror themselves before making any kind of a comment on terrorism and the Congress party shielding terrorists. And I would also like to mention that the Congress party believes in a secular fabric, and they want to ensure that there is no terrorism taking place across the nation. And right now, it's the BJP which is having the defense ministry and the home ministry.
Well, this is a cause.
Congress party.
So does secularism not include protecting the rights of Hindu girls, Christian girls in states if they are being actively co-opted or induced or trapped into this entire game of converting them, radicalizing them and sending them off as cannon fodder to ISIS?
What I'm trying to put across to your viewers is that the Congress party would never, the Congress party would never want to endorse anything which causes a bad name to the country, and also need to shield and also needs to secure the future of the women in the nation.
You have had multiple leaders, be it Congress or left, who have come out and raised these concerns, be it Dr. Umman Chandi from the Congress party or be it V.S. Achyutanandan from the left. So this has been an issue that's been plaguing and that's been brought to the fore, not by the BJP or the RSS or any Hindu sangatans, but it is Christian groups who coined this term love jihad. It is Christian groups that coined this term narcotics jihad. It is the Kerala High Court which took into cognizance, and in its judgment and orders, it used this term love jihad. This is something that should not escape your knowledge, George Kurian. So how is it a BJP agenda?
Well, as I said, BJP is trying to make inroads into Kerala, and having said that, there is no harm in releasing the movie at this point in time, but there's a lot of false narrative that is being trying to build basis the movie in Kerala, but the people of Kerala are well educated. They will not fall for any kind of false narrative at this point in time. That's what
If they will not fall for it, if they will not fall for it, George Kurian, then why are these allegations coming to the fore that the state government is tacitly trying to block the screening of the movie across theatres in Kerala? Why these questions are coming to the fore? Was there the RSS in terms of density of shakhas has the maximum number of shakhas in Kerala, but it does not have any political representation after so many years? You think one movie is going to change it? Or is this one movie going to bring to the fore certain uncomfortable truths? That's one aspect. Tom Wadakan of the BJP is with us. Tom Wadakan, the Prime Minister using Kerala story even in his on the campaign trail. So the BJP has decided to milk the release of a movie politically.
Well, you know, this we have nothing to do with this film. Let me make it clear in the very beginning. They have done a research for the last 7 years, and it has been cleared by the censor board. And this is just a film which has to be seen. And today, as I understand, the film is being screened. But there is demonstration by the Congress, the left, and the threats being issued to people who are going to watch this film. A fierce psychosis is being built up. Now the question remains, if it is a film which creates a problem, watch it first before creating all this, the demonstrations and what have you. Now, this is also a reality mentioned by Achyutanand ji when he was Chief Minister, Oman Jandi ji when he was Chief Minister of the Congress Party. Now, the reality is, if you face reality, you want to sweep it under the carpet because it's convenient for your appeasement agenda and diversionary tactics to divert attention from gold smuggling to the IA camera, what have you. Now, if under these circumstances, if law and order is your issue, your state issue, and if this is creating a problem, that means you're incompetent to control the situation. It's an art film, freedom of expression, and what are you scared of?
George Kurian, you want to respond to Tom Wadakan?
Well, as I said, right now in Kerala, Congress Party is not in the ruling government and it's in opposition, and it will ensure that any kind of things that comes to the fore, will look into it, and definitely the movie can go ahead and release. It will not make that much of an impact because the people are smart enough to calculate about the right and the wrong, between the right and the wrong. So I don't think this will make a difference. But having said that, the Prime Minister is in Karnataka. He's on a campaign trail, and he's trying to capitalize this as an appeasement, you can call it, because he's trying to put the Kerala story also in Karnataka, ensuring that we can get some votes.
Well, let Tom Wadakan respond to that. Tom Wadakan.
This is hilarious. Everything that happens, you put Bajrang Dal issue on in your agenda. You create a situation of boycotting a film, and then you say it has something to do with Karnataka. The film is about Kerala, and if it is something that has to be stopped, it has to be stopped. You can't push it under the carpet. The reality is, if they're so bothered when there is a theatre drama going on the Kerala nuns, I've not seen anybody protest about it. There is no question of secularism being disturbed, peace being disturbed. That play is running. Neither the left nor the Congress Party is bothered. If they are so bothered about freedom of expression, they should also address this issue, which they are not. So what is the problem? You want appeasement, and at what cost? You can't hide away reality. It is not a question of 35,000 or 36,000 or 1 lakh. It is a question if it happens to one woman, she's married and packed off to the Islamic Republic,
Well,
be a slave of that country. How are we protecting our citizens? Isn't there a fundamental right for the
Very fair
person to be alive? You look the other way because
fair
you
question,
think you
and
will get a package of votes from the PFI and the other organizations. Law and order is your issue.
so the fair question is that
Who we should run. People should not be
then fair
threatened.
question.
It is not a propaganda
This
film.
is
When BBC
this
films
is Tom
came in,
Vadakanji
you said,
respectfully.
well, that is all about reality. Now what's the problem with you? 7 years of
Tom
research.
Vadakanji.
2 chief ministers
Tom-
have spoken about it.
Tom Vadakanji, so if that's the case, if it is 7 years of research, that means it's been happening for many more years after that. So it's a national security issue too, along with a law and order issue. So then will the government centrally also revise its numbers and come out with the actual numbers? Because the makers of the movie, while speaking to me here at CNN News 18, took the right stand. They said the number is far beyond 30,000. It's actually 50,000. And one of the stars asked this question, forget anybody else, had it been your daughter, would you be okay with it? Would you oppose it, or would you not want to do this? Would you watch the movie, or would you oppose it had it been your daughter? I thank you, Tom Vadakan and George Kurian. And as we sign off, take a short break. I'm going to get a sip of coffee at this cafe, but leave you so that you stay back and watch the conversation with the cast crew, the makers of the Kerala story on the other side. Stay with us.
According to me, and I'm 100% confident that Congress party would get comfortable majority.
Sir, BJP is making this about national issues, talking about minority quota, talking about Bajrang Dal, the ban that you proposed and so on, whereas you want to make it into local issues. How will you respond to that?
See, what we said was, those who are indulged in hate politics and creating violence in the state, such organizations we are going to ban, whether it is Bajrang Dal or PFI or any other organization.
But do you believe that this has given a chance to polarize the election?
No, it will not polarize the election. 100% it will not. Because people are not bothered about all these things, these emotional issues. In what way the people are concerned? Whether Bajrang Dala is there or not, or PFI is there or not, or any other organization is there or not. They are not bothered about it. They are concerned about day-to-day problems.
Mr. Modi is saying that he has, ever since he's hit the campaign trail, Congress is making personal attacks against him. He's having big road shows in Bangalore. You don't think that will make a difference to the campaign in the last stretch?
We are not, it's not a personal attack against Modi. Modi is a great liar. That's what we are telling. You mean to say that is it a personal attack? What promises he has made in 2014, 15, 16? Has he fulfilled those promises? That is why we are telling Modi is a great liar.
Do you believe that Congress will not take the help of any other party if you were to fall short of majority?
That question does not arise at all, because there will be a clear, comfortable majority to Congress party.
And finally, who will become Chief Minister? Who will become Chief Minister?
It is for the newly elected MLAs and the High Command.
Will you be one of the contenders?
Yes, 100% I am one of the contenders.
Okay. Thank you very much. There you have it, Mr. Siddaramaiah, one of the chief ministerial hopefuls of the Congress party. He believes this election is solely about local issues and the promises that were made by the BJP and not kept by the state government. Here in Varuna constituency with cameraman Chintan and Satish, this is Zaka Jacob for CNN News 18. So we have with us the Congress Party's chief ministerial contender, the former chief minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah. He's had a hectic day of campaigning in his constituency, Varuna. You've had thousands of people in the roadshow that you've just had. What gives you confidence that Congress party will come back to power on its own in Karnataka?
I am 100% confident that Congress party would come back to power with comfortable majority. This time, the people have decided to vote Congress party only. The people of Karnataka are fed up with this government, BJP government. There is a strong anti-incumbency against BJP government. That is why they are comparing our government with Kumaraswamy government and BJP government. See, we are 1,000 times better than BJP government and Kumaraswamy government. And BJP government is the most corrupt government Karnataka ever had. This is the most corrupt government and most non-performing government. They are indulged in looting the state. All ministers, including Chief Minister, they are all indulged in looting the state. So this is the situation in Karnataka. That is why people have decided already because 10th is the election. They already decided that according to me, and I'm 100% confident that Congress party would get comfortable majority.
Sir, BJP is making this about national issues, talking about minority quota, talking about Bajrang Dal, the ban that you proposed and so on, whereas you want to make it into local issues. How will you respond to that?
See, what we said was, those who are indulged in hate politics and creating violence.
7.
Well, namaste and Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen. This is a conversation I've been looking forward to because this is a story that's been there in the ether since about 2008 and also done the rounds in the courts of Kerala, became a national headline and an issue, and a lot of people believe this is nothing but largely propaganda. Where is the proof is what many would ask. And then for somebody to go ahead and say, let's make a story out of it, somebody decide I want to direct it, and then to decide that I want to act in it. So the Kerala story, Vipul Shah ji, Ada, and also Sudipto ji. Namaste. So all three of you, the maker, the director, and of course the actor. Why do this story?
Because when Sudipto Dada narrated me this story, I was kind of in tears. And I thought that something so sad is happening to these girls. Our daughters are getting completely radicalized through a manipulated conversion and their lives are getting destroyed. And while living in this industry and living in Bombay, we have no idea. So how will the nation know about it? So this topic needs to be told to the whole nation, world. And some action has to be taken against this. That was the only thought with which we started. And we also decided that we're going to be absolutely focused on only the human tragedy part of it. We don't want to do any politics in this. We don't want anything else but the human tragedy at the center and heart of it. And we are going to make a very, very honest, very, very bold film. We are not going to shy away. We are not going to sugarcoat. And that's what we have made.
But the politics has already happened, Sudipto ji. People are asking, where did you come up with this 32,000 number? Now groups have announced 1 crore reward for anybody who can prove the 32,000 number.
I did not get time to tell people that number is actually not 32,000. It is more than 50,000.
Wow.
Now,
so you are upping the numbers. But what's the basis for it?
That is what I'm coming. The point is, the number is hardly matters here. After a point of time, you forget counting, 10, 15, 20, 100, 120, 200, then you forget counting. In the case of Kerala, exactly that is what happened. That now number does not matter. You are from Kerala, so you must be knowing. Kerala has an image that it's a beautiful backwater, lush green villages, and it's a photographer's paradise.
Yes.
But that whole story is confined into Kochi to Trivandrum. Nobody knows what is happening in the northern part of Kerala, that Kasargod, where people even in Kerala do not know that there is a place called Attikad, where more than 15 villages has Sharia law. The barber shop is closed. Women are not allowed to move out of the house alone without burqa. Schools are closed. Only madrasa go on. So these are the things which were at this is the high time when you are talking about a new India, emergence of a different India. These prehistoric things cannot coexist together. So this is the right time to take out the truth that what is going on in under the cover of the highest literate state.
So you have research, numbers, facts to back your claim that it's not 30,000, it's upward of 50,000.
Yes, and to reach that 32,000, we kept on adding up numbers from different sources. And I will tell you a very funny part of it. First, the number came from, that the then Chief Minister Oman Chandi placed a report in the floor of the Kerala Legislative Assembly. That number was 7,900 something. Then there are no discussion, no noise. Suddenly, two official conversion center, they come out with the number that 900 girls been converted in the year of 2014 or 15. And then they come that another report came that these are the Satyasarani and all these other unofficial center, they came up with a number of 11,000. So we kept on adding up. And by adding up, and there was a data that 2,800 to 3,200 girls being converted from Hindu and Muslim society. That was also part of the Chief Minister's deliberation that day. So putting all the numbers, calculating as per year conversion numbers, we reached to the fact that on an average 2,800 to 3,200 girls are being converted. That number, we have all the documents that which are the part of this adding up job and the average making job. But we decided not to disclose this at this point of time unless you see the film. One last point.
Yeah.
A few journalists from Kerala saw the film in Bangalore. We organized a test show. They were almost like hounding me that where did you get this number? I said, give me 3 hours time. In between you see the film. After watching the film, when you come out, if you still have the question, I will answer. And trust me, when they came out and I asked them that, do you want the answer? No, Sudipto, we got the answer. We don't need the answer of where did I get the number, 32,000 number. My point is very simple. We also put up RTI, that what is the exact number. RTI has given a website to take out the truth. It was a wrong website address. So you can imagine that there are some organizations which has the vested interest to conceal the truth. So all this, as you said, all this hullabulla and all this shout out is happening to stop the film.
So you're saying focus on the human tragedy, be it 32,000, 3,200, 32 or 3. This should not happen.
Absolutely.
But your point of view is that it's rampantly happening. Let me ask you, what made you do the film? And did you go down, do the in-depth research? Are you convinced about what you've done?
Absolutely. There's not even an iota of doubt that it's not happening. Also because Sudipto sir has done 7 years of research. There's a lot of information available on the public domain also. I think that's why we're getting support from every part of the nation and even internationally, because this is happening internationally as well. It's not just in India. So no, I didn't have any doubts on the material, or whether I should or shouldn't do it also wasn't a doubt.
But there is also the backlash. So if there is support, there is also backlash. There are also those who are saying that you're backing a particular agenda.
Right.
You are, aren't you risking your career? Aren't you risking whether or not you're going to get more projects?
But I always wonder, the people who are saying that, would they say that if even one of their person was among the 32,000, or even if the 32,000 was 5, and they had one of their person in the 5 who was raped, drugged, impregnated, or forcefully sent off, brainwashed, their mother, their sister, their daughter. I wonder if they'd say that it was an agenda even then. So I wouldn't. So for me, I'm clear.
So before watching the movie, when there are people who are passing judgment based on the posters, based on the theme, based on what's happening, What's going through your mind?
I'm actually happy we live in a free country where we have freedom of thought and speech. In the film, they take me to a place where there's no freedom and thought for speech for women. You're not even allowed to have a cell phone on you. You can't, as a woman, you're not allowed to do that. There are a lot of rights that we have. And I think the freedom of thought is the biggest gift ever. So I'm very happy people have the freedom of thought and speech and they're putting their opinion across. I just hope.
We are sitting in Bangalore today and the backdrop is the Karnataka elections. And before you, we had a bunch of startup founders talking about what does India's Silicon Valley want. And while I was listening to them, I was wondering, why is it that the tech capital of the country and one of the largest tech capitals in the world, it has not been able to come up with a solution to beat the voter apathy of Bangalore, to derive solutions to Bangalore's problems that really sound like a broken record, because these are the same issues we've been discussing election after election.
So maybe we'll just ask ChatGPT that question and maybe that will throw up the answer. I certainly don't know the answer. And for those in the audience who know me from my work in Bangalore, you know that I have tried several years, all the way from 2008, spending a lot of my personal capital and money and personal political equity in trying and getting people to come and turn out for the municipal elections, the BBMP elections, which are really the most important elections if you're a resident of a city, and the state elections. And while the turnout for the national elections have certainly increased and there is considerable participation and enthusiasm, it is one of those abiding mysteries on why people just don't want to show up for the assembly election and the local body elections. And there is an inversion which is true, which is that the more important the election is to your personal life and community and neighborhood, the less the participation is. So you have, for example, the BBMP election where the percentages are 36, 37%. Then the state election, it goes to 48%, and the national election goes to the 60s. So it's a question that I certainly don't have an answer for. I've made my effort this time again to try and enthuse voters, especially the intellectually, more, let's say, aware and sophisticated amongst all of you to come out and vote. And I certainly hope you will. I certainly think you should. And, for those who worry about Bengaluru and care about the future of the city, I certainly think that the least you can do is come out and vote on voting day.
So, there is broad consensus that Karnataka has its issues, Bangalore has its issues. Yet the narrative from the BJP has completely turned. It's become a narrative centered around identity. It's become an emotive issue. The Congress has also followed suit. Why is it that Karnataka is not discussing the issues that matter? Why is your party not talking about the BBMP election that happened last in 2020? It's not taking up the cause of the infrastructure mess that Bangalore specifically is in. Why is it that we're subverting these important issues?
I would hesitate to call it subversion, and I know it makes for great copy and stuff like that, but we are actually running an absolutely crystal clear campaign, and all the way to the day of our manifesto, we were talking about 3.5 years of performance, our record, how the double-engine government will give 5 more years of development to Karnataka and Bengaluru. We specifically, in the context of Bengaluru, laid out our vision for the state capital region. And things were going fine, and we were prepared to deal with all of the lies and allegations that were being thrown at us, and we were planning to deal with it with the truth. But when a political party starts playing fuzzy football and starts, I can deal with lies and we can deal with lies. When they start bringing in appeasement, when they start deliberately talking about giving reservations to one particular community where we have nothing against the community, but clearly designed to be a very different type of political discourse, we have a problem with that. And we have a problem with that when you start pandering to the worst of the worst elements and your manifesto then becomes that, then it is it is our duty to sit up and protest and oppose that. And we are very clear about ourselves as a political party. We believe in the politics of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas. Nothing that the Prime Minister, no scheme of the Prime Minister, nothing that our government in Karnataka has ever done, has ever discriminated, has ever appeased anybody or left out anybody. So we have this problem when people say we will do things and we will promise things that are ultra vires the constitutions. And so therefore we will speak out, and we will speak out loud. Now, whether it becomes identity politics as a consequence and who started it, I suspect you don't want to get into that debate of who started it. But this is legitimate political discourse when a party that is increasingly losing sight of what people want and what the discourse should be, and instead of placing any one idea on development of Bangalore, makes banning of an organization the principal pillar on which his manifesto rests, then we will wake up and say, look, that's not on.
So, we're talking about reservation politics. We're also talking about freebie politics. Both parties have put out manifestos where both Congress and the BJP are offering a slew of freebies. Now, that's not progressive politics, right? And when the BJP says that they stand for development, they stand for progressive politics, but the manifestos are contrary to that.
No, again, I don't know which manifesto of ours you read, but certainly our manifesto doesn't compare at all with what the Congress has done. We have not done any freebie politics. Ours is not a party, nor is our government vested on the idea that we will give things to people in return for their votes. We have a development vision. Our Prime Minister says that we have lost so much of time in the last 60, 65 years that we must accelerate development. We must really make this double-engine Sarkara be a narrative, not just about one party and the same party being in two places, but the two governments working together to accelerate development, investment, job creations. That is what our narrative is. Now, if you contrast that with parties, and I have said this publicly, it's a very lazy kind of politics that we saw first in Gujarat, and then I took on that type of Revdi politics, which is in the absence of any other narrative. All you say is, I'll give you this amount of money, I'll give you that amount of money. Look, this is inspired by some parties in the regional party setup like DMK, etc., etc. But certainly it's not something that people want, because people are today looking for a better future. They are looking for a better future for their children. They are looking for better infrastructure. So they are not looking for handouts. That politics of handouts, that politics of, in a sense, buying your vote by giving you some crumbs, is a politics of the 70s. And this party, unfortunately, the party that we are really talking about, hasn't made the transition into a politics of aspiration. And our politics, our vision is really about creating more and more opportunities for the young Indian, building an enabling ecosystem of skills, of education, of fine institutions, of infrastructure, roads, railway stations, new trains, new airports. We believe that the investment of public capital should go there to create a better future for these youngsters and the families that with whom they live. Now, if there is a group of political parties that insist that they will continue the same Garibi Hatao, the sort of a empty promise, and then give out some handouts and perpetuate the poverty, perpetuate the status quo of their lives, then we are certainly not that kind of a party. We are a party that says we want to change your life and we want to take you into a better future.
So you represent the state of Karnataka in the Rajya Sabha. You are a technocrat. You built a business in the state. You're one of the most successful entrepreneurs. We had entrepreneurs on the stage talk about the challenges that they face. And I'll quote one of them who said that there are 225 filings that are required every year to set up and run a business in an SEZ. So, while we are talking about building a nurturing ecosystem for startups, we talk about India's startup story, but when you hear them, while there has been, a lot of push from the government, but yet there are challenges on the ground. Is there something that you would like to say today to the
No, look, I will maintain what I had a program some 3 hours ago with a group of manufacturing MSMEs. And I said here what I said there. I certainly think for a young Indian today, they are the most fortunate generation in the history of independent India. And I say this absolutely without any doubt in my mind. I've been an entrepreneur. I can assure you that I can write a 10-volume book about the struggles, and the so-called struggles of today pale in comparison to what we went through, which is not a typical old man conversation with a young man, but I just want to lay it out there.
Or a young woman.
Yeah, a young woman, exactly. I just want to certainly make the point that the SEZ issues are a little different from the normal startup ecosystem. The SEZs were conceived with a very different framework in mind and are struggling to align to this new world of tech startups, working from home, hybrid work. All of that, the SEZs are not really designed for. So now you have a problem where there is a software tech company in an SEZ, but 50% of them work from home. And the entire SEZ framework is about these are the employees who will be working in the SEZ, and this is the kind of output you'll come from the SEZ. So the SEZ is not really the right example to showcase the difficulties of the startups, number one, which is not to say that the SEZs don't require some reform. Piyush Goyal ji is certainly working on it. We have had a number of discussions on it, and I think over the next few months, certainly that will become clearer. But broadly in the startup ecosystem today, I mean, there'll always be some compliance and income tax filings and all of that. But look, I will say this with the absolute confidence in my command, that it is the easiest thing today to be a startup. 1 year ago, when the Honorable Prime Minister launched the semiconductor mission, and he gave us 76,000 crores to invest, he particularly made sure that there were 2,000 crores set aside for startups. There were no startups in India. Semiconductor design startups? Huh? What? Where? And we have today 28 semiconductor design startups doing cutting edge work, creating devices, AI compute, AI chips, sensing, IoT, all kinds of devices. And the government has bootstrapped many of them with capital. And these are all people, students from IITs and other colleges who basically just went to our website, applied to the government of India. The next thing they knew, 2 months later, or a month and a half later, they were getting on a dais like this, and a check was being given to them by the Minister of State or the DG of CDAC. So I certainly think that it is an absolutely great time, golden era for startup and entrepreneurship in India today. Are things 100% perfect? They are not. I don't make that claim. Will they ever be 100% perfect? I suspect no.
So if a BJP government were to be voted back to power, what are you promising them?
No, first of all, I don't think there's an if about it. I think one of the things that you must not underestimate is the intelligence and the highly developed sense of their own future that the Karnataka voter represents. They certainly know that the next 5 years, they don't want a DK Shivkumar and a Siddaramaiah plundering and messing around. So I see the future of Karnataka, future of Bengaluru as from 2014 it has evolved into ITS to now internet startups, consumer tech startups. I think the next wave in Karnataka and Bengaluru will be electronics manufacturing, electronics design, semiconductor design, AI. And I think the entire span of opportunities in tech that the world is now experiencing and seeing, Bengaluru will see in the next 5 years.
So will we see greater focus on nurturing a manufacturing ecosystem? A lot of manufacturers prefer to go to Tamil Nadu, it's cheaper land.
Yeah, look, the manufacturing in India today, you've seen what Tim Cook said when he came in here and all the, apart from the opening of the store, the Apple and Samsung opportunity that is represented for India is a big, big opportunity. And the electronics manufacturing clusters have evolved into Tamil Nadu, one. Karnataka is the second cluster. Uttar Pradesh, Noida is the third cluster. And there is some activity happening in Andhra and Telangana, depending on the time of the day and the day of the month and the month of the year. Karnataka certainly has, and I will certainly make sure I put all the weight that I have, and I have quite a bit of it, to make sure Karnataka is certainly one of the principal poles for the electronics ecosystem, both in the design, ESD, and the manufacturing side in the coming years.
So more Foxconn-like investments in the state.
You know, we are at $75 billion of electronics manufacturing this year. Our target, the Prime Minister has given us a target of doing $300 billion by 25-26. And I just want to share with you and put this in context. In 2014, the total electronics production in India was about 1 lakh crores plus. And by 26, which is about 10 years on, in a decade, we would have reached 27 lakh crores. So 27x growth in a decade is the target. And I certainly want to see Karnataka and Bangalore getting a big chunk of that, because there are so many benefits we are seeing. Women employment, for example, 70% of the electronics mobile phone sector employees are women. And they are young women who are getting skilled, and they are highly skilled during this whole process. So it is extremely transformational. There are a lot of jobs going to be created as a consequence. And I think there are downstream societal impacts of this that are sort of playing out as we see. And most of these, and I've visited all the factories that today exist in India, they're all from rural and semi-rural backgrounds. And what a sense of accomplishment, what a sense of empowerment when they are sitting on the assembly line and building the iPhone 14 and are now prepping for the iPhone 15 or the Samsung Galaxy, whatever the model is, and prepping for the next model. So I think it's got a huge multiplier effect on at many levels: economic, jobs, investment, confidence that the people have, the skills that are created as a consequence of these kind of high-tech manufacturing facilities.
We had psephologists. They were the first speakers in the at the event today, and they predicted a very neck-to-neck fight between the BJP and the Congress. You have been camping here for a long time. You very actively engaged in planning Karnataka's campaign and executing it on ground. I want to get a sense from you on what I want to get a number from you in terms of the seats that you're expecting to win.
Look, this neck-to-neck, Karnataka has always been a very competitive election field, and I've been associated in various categories, from coffee boy to vada server, from 1995 all the way to now. So I have seen many elections. So I think to characterize this as somehow uniquely different in 2023 from, let's say, 2018 or 2013 is wrong. There is always a tough fight between the Congress JDS combo and the BJP. In terms of where we will end up, I certainly think, and I'm not giving you any complicated psephology or mathematical models and all of that other stuff that passes off as gyan, but I certainly think that there is this state is going to give a decisive mandate, and they want a stable government after seeing the circuses that Congress and JDS ran for some years in the state. So I think stability, the fact that you want 5 years of a stable government, progress, development, investment, jobs, is certainly on top of the mind of all voters in Karnataka. And I think they will go through this process of saying who's best suited to deliver that. And I'm reasonably confident that most voters, and therefore in most constituencies, they will press the button on the Kamal. And so if you ask me what are the number of seats, I'll say a minimum of 113 and a maximum of 224. That's what I'll tell you.
I want to ask you, are there any trade secrets that you can reveal here in terms of how you've used tech in this campaign to manage perceptions, to ensure people come out to vote?
I think this is this is again a myth that some people build, that there is some complex Merlin-like magician wizardish thing that you need to do on social media. Effectively, it's the same thing that you do with real media, or we did for many, many years, which is really get out there. You know the platform. The platforms are all known, whether they're YouTube, whether they're Insta, whether they're Meta, whether they are whatever. And you go put out there in just...
BJP is a most corrupt government. How can the Modi change the thinking of the people? This government is a 40% commission government.
बराबर जम करके सजा करोगे। जब पोलिंग बूथ में बटन दबाओ ना, तब जय बजरंग बली बोल करके सजा दे देना।
Welcome to this special show, Brass Tacks on the Road. We're standing at a beautiful vantage here overlooking the Bangalore skyline. You can see the seat of power, the Vedanta Sauda, and then of course there's the beautiful Kantirva Stadium. You can see UB City in my background, and I can't think of a better location to do a show as the campaign hits the final stretch here in the battle for Karnataka. Is it going to be the BJP or the Congress, or will the JDS spring a surprise? Today, we'll be talking on Brass Tacks on the Road about issues that political parties should be talking, that should be dominating the election narrative, but unfortunately, it gets drowned out. Issues that really matter to ordinary Bangaloreans, whether it is their everyday lives, the traffic woes that the city is infamous for, the potholes, the flooding that we saw last year, and of course, every time it rains in the city. These are the issues that ordinarily matter to the people of the city, but somehow mainstream political parties have not found enough of a voice or resonance, either in their manifestos or in the campaign narrative. Joining me here, a full panel of eminent Bangaloreans who are best qualified, I think, to be talking about these issues. Mohandas Pai is chairman of Manipal Global Education. Professor Tejashwini Gowda is former member of parliament of the BJP. Professor Sanjay Kumar of CSDS, familiar face on CNN News 18. We also have HP Ratna, spokesperson of the JDS. Prakash Bellari, actor and journalist, and one of our fellow election commentators on CNN News 18, and Aishwarya Mahadev, Congress Party spokesperson. Let me start with you, Mr. Pai. You know, I have a sense of deja vu about it, because every time there is election season, we do these shows about how there are traffic woes, there are infrastructure problems. We've been doing this for 20 years, and it seems like nothing is changing or nothing is ever getting fixed. Why is that?
Well, it's got to do with political power. Out of 224 states, Bangalore, I think, has got 28.
Yeah.
Politically, it is irrelevant. Bangalore provides 65% of Karnataka's taxes, 60%